I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for all the random acts of violence against police officers across the nation. Thank you. Please have a seat. If you have a cell phone, please turn it on silent, vibrate, or shut it off so it's not making noise. Roll call, please.
Marlovich.
Here.
Kramer. Reichner.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Iceland.
All right, I'm adjourning this meeting for the public meeting of CDBG. Ms. Minister.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the final public hearing for the city's 2019 CDBG funding. The city in 2019 will receive $298,504. That $248,504 of that will be allocated to finishing up the Reagan Street flood mitigation project, and $50,000 of it will be used for administration. Are there any questions about that? This is the final comment period for how that money will be used by the city. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to a review of the resolution. After the public hearing closes, the council will be acting on a resolution that gives the mayor the authority to sign the application to receive the funding for CDBG. Any questions on that? Another resolution tonight will be voted on is the fair housing resolution. I just want to read that quickly to you so you know what the city will be voting on. In the city of Sunbury, the discrimination of sale, rental, leasing, and financing of housing or land to be used for the construction of housing or in the provision of brokerage service because of race, color, sex, national origin, religion, familial status, or handicap. Discrimination is prohibited by Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. It is the policy of the city of Sunbury to implement programs to ensure equal housing opportunities in housing for all people, regardless of race, color, sex, national origin, religion, familial status, handicap, age, ancestry, or use of guide or support animals. Therefore, the city of Sunbury does pass the following resolution that those things mentioned above, they repeat them again, may not be cause for discrimination in the city. So this is the fair housing resolution that council will be acting on once the hearing is closed. Any questions on this? It is a CDBG regulation. I know that the city also takes it very seriously. Finally tonight, there is also public comment available on rebudgeting of 2017 CDBG funding. When money is not used as expected, it can come back to the council and to the public for comment to be rebudgeted for another use. In the 2017 CDBG application, the Sunbury Fire Department had asked for a budget to purchase HCN monitors at a cost of $3,000. Currently, they have a project going that they feel is much more beneficial to the community, and that would be to create a training facility so that the firefighters can train in non-emergency situations. So as part of this hearing, I'm accepting public comment on the fire department's wish to ask the city to modify the use of the $3,000 from 2017 funding for purchasing HCN monitors to creating a training facility for the city. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that change?
It's on the textile grounds down on the far end of Silk Street. Yeah.
It's
I want to say it's down in Chestnut.
two, what do you call, containers?
2 CPs.
Yeah, CCAN containers that will be created to resemble a residence so that they'll put stairs in and all kinds of stuff so that they can train volunteers. Any other questions or comments? That's it for my agenda. So you can close the hearing.
Thank you. Public hearing is now closed. Meeting is now called back to order. So make a motion to pass resolution 27 and resolution 28, what Ms. Linda String was just informing us all on. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer, Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Ister.
Is there any audience comment on agenda items only at this time?
Have to take a motion to change that 3,000.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion to accept the fire department's wishes for the $3,000
Transfer it over to your.
for the training.
Second.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Ister,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Kramer.
All right, any audience comment on agenda items only at this time? All right, thank you. If SRI could come up. The Caring Award, the City of Sunbury Caring Award is to identify and reinforce the activities of our citizens who have made an exceptional contribution to our community as a concerned citizen and has established themselves as a role model for society and particularly the citizens of our community. You all can come over. So the Caring Award, this certifies that the Sunbury Revitalization Inc., SRI, has provided great service to the city of Sunbury since they were established in 1986. Their volunteer committees and in partnership with the city of Sunbury and other various city organizations organizes the Sunbury River Festival, Sunbury Sandwich Stroll, Brews on Lake Augusta, late night shoppers, summer movies on the river, hometown hero banner displays, hanging flower baskets throughout the downtown area, and various other projects. The continued actions of Sunbury Revitalization Inc. help to make our community stronger and a better place to live, work, play, and invest in. So thank you to SRI for everything you do and for the Sunbury River Festival this year. And if y'all could just tell the public a little bit about everything that went into putting on the River Festival.
I'm gonna hand that one.
We start planning around 1st of January, and it's basically a whole year. My co-chair, Lori Johnson, and I, we meet with Amanda and Sarah in the office. Volunteerism. We could always take volunteers, by the way. I want to throw that out there. We need them. And we just start planning, and it's a lot of work for 3 days of events. And the money, it goes towards SRI for all the stuff you just heard about and much more. We have facade grants that we do, and we just, I can't even think of everything that we do. But and there's just a lot into the River Festival, between the vendors, the entertainment, the logistics, everything. I just, I'm glad it's over for this year.
But we're very grateful to the City Council and the Mayor for this award. It's a testament to the efforts of our staff, of our volunteers, of our board, which is a volunteer board. And as Slade mentioned, we're always welcoming additional volunteers, and if there's anything that you can think of that we can improve upon, do better, the same goes to the council, please let us know what we can do. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Tickets are on sale for the Wine and Brew Fest too. That's coming up September 21st. Thank you guys. Thank you, Mr. Ister. Thank you.
I feel like we're stealing, but we're gonna head out and let you do your presentation.
I make the motion to approve the minutes of July 25th, 2019 and August 12th, 2019. Do I have a second?
Kramer, Reichtner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Ister, Barlow.
Yes. All right, and Ms. Ocker, your strategic management.
Right, so this is an update of, back in June 10th, council meeting, we had Mr. Jim Rose here. He presented some information about the early intervention program, the fact that it was changing names. This is, the new name is the Strategic Management Planning Program. And also at that time, the council was considering whether or not the city would participate and asked for additional information, specifically some reports from municipalities that have participated, and also for me to contact those municipalities and speak with officials about their impressions of the program and their participation in it. The purpose of the Strategic Management Planning Program, previously called the Early Intervention Program, is to provide guidance for municipalities interested in an improved fiscal position. The program provides grants of up to $200,000 to develop and implement multi-year financial management programs and strategies. Normally, it's a 50-50% matching, but we were given the authority, or we were provided an opportunity to have that adjusted to a 70-30, where the city would provide 30% of the match of the grant, any future grants that we would get through the program. So I did contact officials in Lewisburg, Minersville, Carbondale, and then one other, I believe a councilman asked me specifically about Williamsport and their participation. It turns out Williamsport did not participate in EIP, however they had two commissions going on to talk about a form of government. But the city clerk that I spoke to there said she had wished they had done the EIP because it would have given them the result that they wanted, and that there would have been more then to follow on afterwards. All of the comments that I received were positive in that the effectiveness of the program and its benefits to the municipalities. They did note that it is a lot of work at the beginning when they do the in-depth assessment of the financial status and the organization and efficiency of the municipality as a whole. So it would examine our manpower, it would examine our processes in all of the departments, as well as our financial standings. There is a flyer in your packets just depicting the Strategic Management Planning Program. Mr. Rose, Mr. Carpenter are here in case the council has any questions at this time.
As we decide to move forward, what's the next step? Where do we start with?
It starts with an application to the program, and then once the application is approved, then they will help us to identify or put together a request for proposals for a consultant firm to come do that initial in-depth assessment of our finances and our organization.
We're still not on the hook for any money until we actually get the proposal back and select a vendor.
Correct.
Joy, I think it was 11 years ago this was done, I'm guessing.
2009.
Okay. Did you go over that old?
I did. I have a copy of the old report here actually with me that I was even reviewing again today. I think that there were a number of recommendations in the report that, for whatever reason, the resourcing wasn't there to go ahead and follow through on them. Some of it had to do with being able to optimize fees. Some of it had to do with updating some of our ordinances. So I think that one of the things that the council should consider is if we do the program and we put that money forward to get a report, that there is an organization structure in place to act on the report's recommendations. And that would mean one of the other municipalities said that they had formed a work group after they got the report, and that work group then had the responsibility to work on those recommendations and follow through.
Now, looking over the old proposal 10 years ago, was there any of that stuff accomplished, do you feel? I don't remember what all's in there.
There's a lot packed into it. Was any of it done?
Well, okay,
It's hard to say. I mean, the details are in the report.
Chris, what I'm getting at, from that report to the present, has the city changed that much that's gonna take and change that report?
The only thing is, if let's say now we wanted to move forward with doing some of the things in that report, and they're here, we won't get into the matching funds extra because it's old. So let's say we wanted to move forward with doing those projects now, we gotta fund them 100% ourselves. Versus if we do the report again, it's 70-30, they pay 70, we pay 30. So that's probably the advantage to look right there.
Well, then I'm misunderstanding, the 200,000, that's to do the study, am I correct? And we pay 60,000 out of the 200.
Mr. Carpenter?
Won't be that much, Councilman. The initial phase might cost you between $20,000 and $30,000.
And we're paying what percentage of that?
So the entire, that would be your share, I'm giving a rough estimate. But the phases of the program, so when the initial report is issued, there could be multiple suggestions. So in other words, if your comprehensive plan, and I'm using that as a talking point now, I don't know about your comprehensive plan, but if that would be outdated and would need to be updated, the consultants would put that in your report. That would cause Sunbury City Council to then apply to DCD to have funding to do that comprehensive update at that same 70-30 split. So whatever recommendations are in there, if it's going to cost the city of Sunbury operating expense to accomplish what the consultants are outlining, that cost would be split the same 70-30% for those recommendations. Jim?
That's correct. And what was the length of time for the repayment of this?
It's a three-year grant. So you wouldn't have to budget or pay your portion of it until the third year of the grant. You draw down all the state funds first and exhaust them, and then that's when you would be able to pay.
And some of our match can be in-kind
You
work.
can.
So if the city employees are gathering data and information and providing that to the consultant, then that time wages could be applied to the match, correct?
Wages, benefits, yes.
So we'll give you a timesheet, Jody, so for your time, whatever your hourly rate is and your fringes, just keep that date that you did the work on to help with the consultants and how much time that you spent, and that hourly rate will be deducted from your 30% match.
I have a question, and it's just curiosity on my part. Why is every other sector in the state locked together except us when we're stuck down with Lehigh Valley?
That's a very good question, and so as recently as last month, we had a meeting in Harrisburg, and that map is being redesigned to put Northumberland County in the northeast region where
We have a lot more in common with Montour and Columbia counties than we do.
Yes, sir, and that's been recognized and corrected.
Okay, thank you.
This map also is not Mike and my service area, which is you. We have the whole Northeast. For whatever reason, this is the map of the regional directors, and they really don't have anything to do with this program.
Right.
It's Mike and I who will be working. So you are part of that purple area.
Valid question.
Thank you.
Good question.
I think it makes sense, I mean, to at least go down the road to do the proposals, because we're not locked into anything, at least see what that's gonna cost, and then continue to have the conversation of whether it's feasible, one, go forward, and two, whether it makes sense for us to do it, but rather than delaying the application point, so I don't know if we have to.
So tonight, we're just gonna,
There's no cost for the application, so we
There's no cost for the application, no cost for the proposals, right?
That's correct.
So we can, it will come back to us when we have that. We'd be able to talk to the people making the proposals prior to deciding whether or
You
not to
need to
go.
do that,
Exactly.
yes.
So we'd be able to have a conversation with them about that.
The only other question I would have on this, Chris, is what drastically would it hurt to wait one more meeting so we have all 5 council members to the vote. Not that it would change the vote.
I don't know, are we voting? Joel asked a question maybe for you. We have to vote to do the application?
I think you have to vote to perform the application.
We okayed the application last time, didn't we?
No, we did not, because I think the last time that I provided an update, it was still wanting additional information before deciding.
You have to authorize the mayor to sign it.
Sign the application. It don't matter to me.
I would feel better if we had 5 people here rather than 4 voting on it. Not that it would change the outcome of the vote, but just so we can, everybody's had their input as far as council goes.
Is there any time period or table on the application process?
No, it's a rolling application.
We can vote on it next week. I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
So we'll wait till the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the resolution for CDBG.
No, you already did.
Never mind.
Resolutions are done. We're at the Verizon right of way. So we received an application from Verizon Wireless to install what they call a small cell package. This is a small, it's like almost like a transformer box that goes on an existing telephone pole. And they're required to apply to the city for access to the public right of way for that. Your packet includes, at the back of it, you'll see some pictures that, this is behind, the first picture is behind the Shikellamy High School, where the pole is that they'd like to place the box. And then followed by a map of where that is. And then the third picture is a sample installation of what it looks like, the boxes and the antenna, etc. So that's what would need to be installed on the pole. The FCC has set in place some guidelines for a municipality to recoup fees equal to its reasonable costs. Our own city ordinance, Chapter 106, licensed occupations, license fees, states that individuals furnishing communication, light, heat, or power, an annual fee of $100 for their right-of-way. The FCC allows $500 for a single upfront application that includes up to 5 small wireless facilities. So, in discussion briefly with Joel, the idea would be to let them know that they could pay $500 for this initial application and then $100 per year to maintain the right-of-way.
What will it do?
It improves the signal in the area. It's like a signal booster is what I'm
Appears
understanding.
that it's increasing the 5G.
Sounds good.
So it's a bonus for the residents in the area.
Yeah.
If you have a right.
Yeah, it is. Just to be clear, the federal government has entered some restrictions on our abilities to charge them for this service. I have a feeling they have very good people working for them and lobbying the government. But the rules set out that we're allowed to obtain up to $500 from them for the initial placement of the device, and I think that they shouldn't bulk at paying us $100 a year to keep it there. Now, there's nothing in here that says we can do that, but there's nothing here that says we can't do that. So my thought process was we give it a shot and see what they come back with.
I'll make that motion.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister, Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer, Reichner.
Yes.
Handicap parking?
All right, so I believe it was just at the last council meeting, we had a concerned citizen approach the council about handicap parking and the difficulty she had with being able to use the handicap space that was placed in front of her home for her use, but it wasn't designated for a specific registration plate. That anyone with a handicap placard was able to use that, and she happened to have difficulty with some nearby folks in who was going to be using it. So we reviewed the existing ordinance on handicap parking, and Councilman Reese, put together some changes that he would like to make on that ordinance. And so this is the first reading of the changed ordinance. First of all, from the original, this is chapter 101 of the city code, handicap parking. It had a requirement for a handicap parking committee and a handicap enforcement officer. We weren't doing that, so we went ahead and eliminated that from the newly revised draft. Highlights of the revised draft include that a reserved handicap parking sign can be signed to a handicapped person and specify their specific registration plate. That's one option. The other option is a general reserved handicap parking sign that could be used for anyone with a handicap placard. There would be an application fee and also a renewal fee if council decided to institute one.
On the reserve side is
On the reserve side, when they have a space specific to their registration plate. And for the reserved handicap parking sign, non-driver applications will be denied. So the reserve to a specific registration plate would be for the handicapped person who is driving the vehicle that's going to be parked in that space, to make that clear. Decisions will be made by the city administrator, and the supervisor of DPW will make a decision on the applications, but the applicant will have the opportunity to appeal if they so desire, and that would be heard in front of the city council. People who have previously granted spaces, those spaces will remain in effect. They will not be assigned to their registration number. If they wish to have that space assigned to their registration number, they would have to apply for the reserved specified place. Then there are the general reserved parking signs. So if someone is a non-driver and they still wanted to have, this would be the way that they would get a handicapped space, but it would not be specific to a registration plate. It would be able to be used by anyone with a handicap placard. There would still be the application, and that the city administrator and supervisor of the Department of Public Works would make the decision, and there will be an opportunity to appeal. There is also a requirement to renew the spaces and notify the city of their intention to renew the spaces by a designated date, February 1st of each year. And also a penalty for their failure to notify the city if they no longer need the space. So if they moved, or the person that at that residence moved or is no longer with us, they might want to notify the city so that we can take down the reserved parking sign. Those are the highlights of the new ordinance, and I recommend that the council approve this as the first reading.
Question. If the person does not renew it, do we go out and take it down?
Yeah, then they'd have to go through the process of reapplying. Yeah.
How are we gonna designate the difference? Are we gonna go through color codes or on the signs?
The sign will, you're talking about, we will actually have the vehicle registration number on the sign.
Or
Just
the,
means working.
or the general ones? I mean like the,
The general will look like any other handicap space within the city as now, so those won't change. The reserved one, Steve's working on, or trying to draft up what it's gonna look like. It's gonna probably be a larger sign, and it's gonna have the actual registration right on it. So when you pull up, if you see a registration number, you'll know you can't park in that space.
and we'll denote reserved parking.
It'll say, yeah, it'll say reserved parking. And then just to be clear, also on the non-reserved, it's not only for the non-drivers, but let's say you have multiple vehicles and you wanna use one of the spots, like you just switch them out, and you still wanna park, but you don't wanna reserve it to one, you can get the non-reserved, but then anybody can use it, it's not reserved for you, and there's not the full fee. You don't have to worry about renewing the non-reserved, you don't have to go through all those processes, just the reserved when you have to renew every year for the state.
And there hasn't been any fees determined yet.
No, Steve's actively working on the cost structure for what it would cost the city in labor and materials to go out and put those signs up, and then that's what the fee will be, whatever that cost is. But this first reading is just to pass the ordinance as is. The next time we'll be able to talk about the fee structure.
What about the availability of parking on the city streets? So
That's-
what if like half a block is handicapped and they all want the reserve?
Nope, so it says right in there that, so there's criteria that the city administrator and the DPW supervisor have to follow. and that's one of them. So if there's too many spots already taken, sorry, I mean, it's kind of at that point. It also, it could be that there's no parking in that area, that then you can't do it. So there may be no handicap spaces, but it's just not, for instance, Market Street, we're probably not gonna be giving church spaces on Market Street. That's just an example. So it's all there, they have the right to decide it, but if that person feels they decided wrong, or if a neighbor feels they decided wrong, they have the right to appeal to council, and then the final say will come from council.
Well, since you brought this to us, do you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll motion to pass
Wait,
it.
wait.
Oh, I'll motion to wait.
One thing I was on your behalf, Chris, since you're incurring the cost, I think that money that's received for that signage and so forth, because you got a post, you got some dollars there and your labor should be set aside to purchase more product.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be the goal is obviously that it would be self-funding, we would continue to do that. But the nice thing is the fee will be paid up front. It'll go right to the general fund, and then the money will come right out to pay the salaries. So there's really no cost that we need to keep to maintain this program.
Remember, when it comes out, your budget goes into the general, you lose that in a sense.
The thought would be that it would be quick. So, I mean, I guess I look at everything going in general, doesn't matter where it's going out, it's gonna get where it's supposed to. So I wouldn't add a line item in on an income stance for this.
Slide over my department, I'll take it.
Just a question also, since what you said about parking availability and certain things, is there any consideration given to the reserved parking sign in parking lots?
What do you mean? So we already have the,
Say somebody lives on Market Street, for lack of a better word, at or near Dollar General,
sure.
and they have handicap, and they want to put a handicap sign in our parking lot.
I think that would fall under the ordinance that we passed recently. The percentage one that shows the reserved spaces in the lot, I think that would fall under that,
Okay.
not this one.
But we're not eliminating parking lots.
No, I mean, they have, again, it's gonna come down to their discretion, but that would fall under the other ordinance. It's already, they already can do that now if they want to, under that. Any other questions on this? And I'll do the motion we're asking.
Second it.
Kramer, Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes. Proposal for architecture?
Right, so this is in relation to architectural services and feasibility study for the Chestnut Street warehouse conversion to a police facility. This is provided to us by Strasser Bear Architects, and the cost associated with the fee proposal that they have here is a total of $8,500. It includes 4 steps. One is an assessment of the existing conditions, the structure, the feasibility, utilities, site constraints, exterior envelope, that would all be considered, and they do a full assessment of the property. That's $2,500. The preliminary design options based on the building program and I think the requirements that we have put forward about what we need to have in the building, they would do preliminary designs to accommodate those needs, and that would include site plan, floor plans, interior and exterior sketches. That's $3,000. And then, depending on which of the options they're presenting us, we would pursue a final design option. That would be an additional $2,000, but that would be a more detailed drawing, including HVAC, plumbing, electrical information. And then step 4 is an opinion of the probable cost. For the final design option, they would do a detailed cost breakdown to fully understand the potential cost of the work. And this would give us the information then that we would need to make a decision on a police facility and the feasibility, of course, of using that warehouse.
Can I help with that?
Yep.
So, I mean, you guys were at the meeting, but just in case we weren't there, we had the public meeting about the police station, the options that we went over. The Chestnut Street warehouse was one that was presented as an option. And basically, these guys, Strasser Bear, they have done multiple police stations in the area. Pretty much, and Brad, you talked to pretty much every police station in the area that's been done last.
Bubble Valley.
Bloomsburg, Town Hall,
Yeah,
East Buffalo, Coltmont.
So they know what they're doing. So basically, this isn't necessarily going to say that if we do this, we're locked in, that's the building, we're moving there no matter what. But this at least takes a building that we already own and that we are already not using really, except for storage, that could be really allocated. And at least lets us see the feasibility of putting something there rather than it just sitting unused.
And investing back into our community.
Exactly.
And I think it also gives us, but it gives us an idea then, in the end,
Yes.
what it might cost,
Yeah.
irregardless.
Regardless, what's
It's
the
gonna
cost
give us a
of it?
good ballpoint figure of what's gonna cost.
And again, if they come back and they say there's structural issues, the building's in disrepair, it's not worth it, then we know that we now own a building that's structurally not safe, and we need to figure out what we need to do at that point. So regardless, this gets us going somewhere in a positive direction.
We'll sit down and talk to them after step one. After they do evaluation of the condition of the building.
Yes, from what we gathered, they would not move on to step two until
Yeah,
they
they
finish.
said they would break, that's why they broke it down into those sections. That day we met with them, they said you can stop after step one, if you want, at that point.
So if they did it and it just says, no, this building's not gonna work, there's no use in paying for steps 2, 3, and 4. And they would bill us as work is incurred along the way, not all at one time we would be hit with it. They said it would take, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 months or so?
2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months to go through this whole plan, but at least it gets us started in the process for looking into this. So any other questions? Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept this report.
Or do you want to just make that motion into just accepting up to step 1 and then we'll proceed
That's
after?
fine. Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept to do step 1 of this report.
I'll second it.
Reichner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Ister? Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer?
Make a motion to pay the invoices of $37,832.20 and liquid fuels of $3,158.56.
Reese? Ister?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer? Reichner?
Yes.
Howick property?
Yes, the title search is still underway, so that's still pending. We already talked about strategic management planning program, the South Fork and Spruce Street intersection that was brought to our attention, I believe again it was the last council meeting. Department of Public Works has gone out and painted crosswalks, painted stop on the pavement, elevated the stop sign, and also painted curbs. And the woman who had brought that to our attention called the city to let us know that we had exceeded her expectations and she was happy with what we had done in improving that intersection, the safety of that intersection. Next topic is the city streetlights. Very happy to report that progress is being made, that the from front on Market Street, from front to 3rd Street, new LED light bulbs have been installed. The 3rd through 10th Street and Front Street will be completed over the next 2 months.
Mr. Whipple, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'll let you know if any more go out.
Did you say there's still 4 out on Market, or
Yeah, between front and,
is that Mike
Second.
Birdie's?
yeah,
Okay. It's a mistake.
Well, yeah, they must have just been.
well, they were still out last night. Because I sat in Weiss's lot last night and looked at them. Hey, come on, to go out, come on, go out.
They're fixed, Mr. Whipple.
Good.
Just for you.
I'm
All right.
sure.
Music in the Park is Tuesday, August 27th with Mike and Pat. It is rescheduled from August 6th. The next New Year's Eve committee meeting is September 25th at 6 p.m. The next Heart and Heritage 250th anniversary meeting is October 23rd at 6 p.m. The next city council meeting is September 9th at 6:15 in these council chambers. Is there any audience comments at this time? Please raise your hands.
I'd just like to make a comment from here.
All right, yep.
I'm just thankful that they're working together on getting things done. It improves the city.
Who?
Lights and everything else. It's safety, it just improves the city.
All the departments of the city have been working extremely well together recently.
I appreciate that.
Any other audience comments?
Old business. This is old business. I brought a souvenir for Mr. Reichner there, since he doesn't think this tree is dangerous for the neighborhood. The name's Eldridge Valto, 269 North 12th Street. These are branches that have fallen out of that dead tree, the oak tree that we already discussed. It was, I my understanding that this thing was gonna be taken care of, and the city was gonna have that owner cut that tree down, which is also cracking the curb. But it seemed like,
We have a shade tree commission now.
okay,
We didn't have a shade tree commission before until, what, maybe a month ago, month and a half ago?
Well, we
Let me back up.
Yeah.
Can I jump in quick? Just so we're clear. When I met with Mr. Valto, my understanding was we had a one-person shade tree committee, okay? He had looked at the property, said that that tree had to come down, whatever. He then, within a week, quit. Retired, I'm sorry, I apologize. Yes, that one, semantics, but yeah, he retired. We don't have anything in writing from him. Therefore, when Kurt, the mayor, set up the new,
Shade Tree Commission.
thank you, Shade Tree Commission, we need to go through them so that we can actually get something, a legal document that tells us we can take down that tree. Okay, and I was there, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, I saw it with you last spring, probably. But what we need to do is get it in front of the current Shade Tree Commission members, let them take a look at it and get back to us, so that we can actually legally do what you want us to do.
And what is the steps for?
Well, they're already, Joe, you guys are aware of it, right? Because I know, I've talked to Bob Snyder about it and sent pictures and stuff, and I know I passed it along to you guys. You should at least know about it by now and take your steps as a boarding, right? So they know about it.
They know about it.
They know exactly what street it is. Yeah,
And now they have
I'll
pictures.
show them.
So right now, it's up to the Sunbury Shade Tree Commission to make the decision regarding this tree.
And then we can move forward. We just have to have their legality as a shield for us.
So those branches belong to Joe.
I bring the marshmallows.
all right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other audience comments? Regina?
Regina Russell, Democratic Committee, Ward 2. I would like to review the handicap. A couple of years ago, I went through something like this, so I'm trying to understand the language you're going to be using in your description of your ordinance. PennDOT, on their website, when you have a handicap sign that's designated to your address and your name, says that anyone else with a handicap sign, they can use that space for 2 hours. After 2 hours, then you can call and an officer can issue a ticket on that person with a handicap space. And you might want to look that up.
I didn't.
I know that Coltmont does what you're proposing to do, where they have the reserved signs, they have signs that will list the person's license plate on the sign so that you know that you don't park there. One question I would like to know, a lot of the people in Sunbury, and usually people who do have handicap signs, are on fixed incomes. And I hope that there'll be a consideration in the fee that you charge when you start talking about you gotta pay for a reserve or you gotta do this.
The fee will be our exact cost. So whatever the city's cost is to incur on actually doing the space, that's what the fee will be.
Now, that sounds nice, but then your fee could end up being $100.
Well, it might be.
Yes, see, and that to me could be a burden on someone that is on
You
a
still have the
fixed
right to apply for the general without that fee. So you're talking the reserve. So the reserve, we're gonna incur the larger cost because it's the larger sign.
Okay.
So that's why we're looking at the fee structure for
The
that.
larger sign, and then it includes the installation, and that's why it would cost $100, correct?
Well, I don't know the exact fee, but I don't.
Well,
that's not-
approximately. Now, did anyone research to see if there is a grant that you can get for this? Yeah, I think you might find it. There
Maybe
is
that,
a grant.
I guess, United Way maybe over something like that, but. I don't
Office
know.
of Vocational Rehabilitation.
What is it?
Office of Vocational Rehabilitation.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other audience comment?
Hi, my name is
Tracy Lesher, and I came here tonight to discuss some ordinances for the city that I have a question about. Recently, a business had moved into my neighborhood, and we were told from the beginning, we were concerned about parking issues. And we were informed by numerous people that the business had to provide 3 off-street parking spots for their employees. However, this business has moved into the neighborhood and the employees are not utilizing those spaces. I have talked to the owner of said business and didn't really get anywhere. But my concern is if the city has ordinances for new businesses or whatever, and the ordinance is to provide parking for employees and not utilizing them, where's the mechanism to enforce these ordinances that the city has?
You would have to address that with the code office.
I did.
What, is it in the agreement that they have 3 off-street parking?
I'll jump in.
Yes,
Okay,
we did have an office space move into on Race Street, corner Race and South River Avenue. Okay, our city ordinance for off-street parking requires 1 parking space for 200 square feet of used building, okay? With the office space being used, he's required to have 3 spaces. He does provide those spaces. However, as I said to Ms. Lesher, I cannot set up there all day to see if he's utilizing those spots. And I said to her the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's sort of where I'm at with this. He's providing the spots, but if you don't want to use them, I can't force him not to use them, you know? So, or force him to use them, excuse me. So, and I know I had spoke to Ms. Ocker multiple times on this same issue.
So have I.
One, sorry?
So have I.
Okay,
My understanding is
so,
the off-street space is there,
yes,
and the employees choose not to utilize it.
That's correct.
and we have no city
Mr.
ordinance
Reese
that
doesn't
says that
feel that
they're
he should
public
be able to
spots.
tell his employees to park there.
It's
This is-
designated.
So that's why I wanted to just jump in. I'm gonna abstain from further conversation on this because I don't want to discuss my business in this light. But if you have a question, I'll be glad to answer it about the situation, but this is regarding my business.
I don't know, I'd have to do some research more on maybe even, if there's nothing in our ordinance, is there anything in the code, or the national
No.
code?
No,
I don't know.
there's nothing in our city ordinance that says, the only thing it says in our ordinance is that he has to provide these spots. There's nothing in our ordinance that says that he has to utilize those spots. It's just like if when you apply for a rental unit, you need to supply 1.5 parking stalls, okay? Doesn't mean those tenants are gonna use them 1.5 off-street parking stalls. Same concept. Oops, sorry.
I'm
When
gonna
we
have
looked
to,
at the number of spaces in that vicinity, we talked about this, that there were spaces that were added to that block.
2.
And then on a net gain of, was there
There
a
is
net
no
gain?
gain because his 2 employees are using those.
But then if 2 spots were added that you didn't have before, and 2 are being used, then there's no net loss either. Is that correct?
are your off-street spaces being used at all?
What do you mean?
Customers using them?
No.
The off-street, we use one of the off-street. It's just a preference. It's a garage. There's a 2-stall garage in there. It fits the ordinance within there. There's a preference of the employees and myself to park, it's city street parking. So we park on the city street. Again, we're not-
I'd have to do some research on that.
My question is, if you have these ordinances for businesses, and not just Mr. Reese, but if you have new businesses coming in and they have to provide these things, first of all, they might look down on it because you need to provide it, but from a neighborhood standpoint where parking is already at a minimum, and we have these employees that have these spots that he needed to have for his employees, but he's not making them park there.
I don't know what to tell you on that, because there's no, I can't tell you where to park as long as you're.
Well, I understand, but I'm
parking.
talking about ordinances in general. It's the same like with the rental property.
So there's nothing,
There's no mechanism to make these people, do this. I mean, I understand it's public parking, I get all that. I get it's an ordinance for him to open up his business. From a neighbor standpoint, it stinks. that you guys don't have a mechanism to do this, even for rental. If and when we move and we want to rent our place, just like Mr. Rhodes said, you know, we have to provide, okay, so we'll move the rocks out of our backyard so you can pull in there, but then we're gonna put them right back because you have to use it.
Yeah, we've had that, this isn't the only place we've had that situation. We've had zoning variances over parking.
Multiple.
Right. But I mean, what gives?
I have no idea.
Yes.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna do some research on it, but it's one of the catch-22s.
I think you also saw that, I went around after this was brought to me, I knocked on every single door of every single person in that neighborhood and let them know what we were doing, talked to them about what was going on, and there was no other issues. There was nothing brought to us, we're parking.
See, we were lied to from the beginning of this as well. I mean, we were told that there was gonna be these and we were led to believe that these employees were gonna use this off-street parking by a city councilman, by a businessman, and he's not. That is true, absolutely true. You told
Okay.
us, Mike Rhodes told us, we were led to believe it.
Yeah, I'm discussing my business.
So your comment has been heard. The code office will look into the ordinances and so. with
Well,
the-
let me jump in. I didn't want to interrupt you while
No,
you're
you're
talking,
fine.
but, I want to answer your question as best I can.
Sure.
Okay? Now, obviously, I don't know exactly what the ordinance says that you're talking about, because this is the first I'm learning that this was an issue.
Mr. Rhodes can tell you more.
Well, I
about
can pull it
this.
up. I mean, I can
Okay.
pull it on my phone probably, but I don't bring my phone in here. Point being, I'll look at the ordinance too, okay? The problem you're gonna run into, and this is gonna sound like a typical lawyer bullcrap answer, but this is gonna be the problem. You're talking about public parking.
I understand that.
I don't think,
But we can't use his spots.
I understand that. I understand that. And what I'm telling you is not that you're wrong, and
Right.
not that it can't be enforced. I want you to understand that.
Right.
What I'm telling you is, I don't have an answer for you off the top of my head.
Sure.
And I just wanted to be fair to you and tell you that I will look at it. I'm sure that the council will want me to look at it, and I will do
Absolutely.
Mhm.
There may be cases out there that say, you can or can't do this, but I don't, because I didn't know this was an issue until just now, I can't answer it for you.
I mean, I'm sure it's an issue other places.
That's what I'm saying, I'm sure it's come up.
I mean, however, you know, like I said, we were led to believe that they were gonna be using these. We were also led to believe that it was Monday through Friday during the day and one late night till 7. However, there are 2 nights somebody's there till 10:30 and also Saturday till noon that we weren't aware of either.
Okay.
Chris, it's not a lie, you even told me
Okay.
yourself.
This is just a public comment period.
That's fine, and I just wanted to bring it also to council. I mean, like I said, you have one of your own here that's not, you have these ordinances that aren't,
I mean, you
there's
can
no way
also
to
go and
enforce
look,
them.
I mean, Mike, you know how many permits we applied for within the code office with the work that we had, all the construction work we filed, every single rule down to the detail, moved that business, we invested in a business in the neighborhood, we put money into that business in the neighborhood, and now we've been dealing with this since we moved in. So,
Well, I understand that you did all the ordinances. I understand why the ordinance is there. What I don't understand is why there's no mechanism to enforce it, or any ordinance in town.
Well, there's lots of mechanisms to enforce ordinances in town, I can't tell you there is for that one.
Right.
But, I mean, there's lots of ordinances in town that do have mechanisms for enforcement.
Mhm.
I think what you're looking at is a constitutional type argument, quite honestly, as to whether or not you can require a business to provide its own parking spaces and use them, whether that's constitutionally allowed when there's public parking available. I know we can make them have the spaces, from other zoning things in other towns, okay? I don't know if we can make them use them, but I'll find out.
What about the businesses on Market Street?
What about those businesses?
Are they required to have some type of parking for employees or whatnot? No.
some commercial versus residential.
It's on-
They're exempt.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so it's from business residential.
It's
Okay.
because you're in the business residential, what is it, our
Neighborhood.
neighborhood business, okay.
Okay.
Tell you what, man, are you staying for the end of the meeting?
Sure,
Is it okay if I approach you then?
absolutely.
I'll get your number and your address and everything.
I would appreciate that.
I'll look at it and I'll get back to you.
Okay,
Is that fair enough?
fair enough.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ruth Reel. I live in Riverfront Apartments. We do have 3 high-rises in our town, do we not? We do not have one park bench downtown that we can walk down and rest to come to. to go to Market House for people in the south end and the north end, and park bench in each block somewhere to sit to rest. When people come to high rises, until they get to Market House and we're out. I have artificial knees, and from Front Street down to Dollar General and beyond, some days I can't walk that far without sitting somewhere. And out of the park, I came one time, I had knee surgery. I walked to the Wises down here, sat in a bench, and I went over in the park, and this stupid's out of the way. I went to OIP for an hour and a half with a friend, walked straight home, couldn't walk for 2 days because it's too far, too fast after surgery. But there's no benches. Any other town you go to, there's benches. There's benches in Middleburg. There's benches in each block or something that we may sit down and rest to go shopping. It's not fair to us old folks, we have nowhere to sit. That's just something. Another thing, Chestnut and Front Street. Could you please put a sign out that we may cross the street to go across the river to go for walks or go to the, there's no way to get across without being killed. One of those signs in the street that says you have to stop for the public to cross. You have in other places, like I have finally got one down Chester Street, but Front Street that we can cross the street safely without being killed. Around Chester, and something that people in high rise can go across and go to the river.
Are you talking to going to the amphitheater?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Have signs out there at all times that we can cross safely. Just thought for the day.
Small PennDOT yield signs.
Yeah, we'll
They're
have to
there
arrange
sometimes
whether we
and
can.
they're not.
Yeah, we have to do a feasibility on that to make sure we can. We
Well, you
just
did
paint
have
those-
some there, and you move them during different activities.
Okay, I'll have to check to see if those are our responsibility.
Let's see if we can have one there permanently that we can get across safely. I'm considered about everybody, not just me, it's for my town, this is my home. Sunbury's my home. And I want the best for my people. And some people around here know what I mean, right? Right. I care. This is my home.
We did just, as a positive, just painted all the crosswalks.
Well,
Try and make
the
it
traffic,
visible.
they just, they run over you first. So if you get one of those things like Lewisburg has, you don't stop, you get arrested. For hate, whatever, me or you, whatever, walking. But we move slower, and it's just that safety of old folks, we like to go across, but it's scary. Even at the red lights, forget it. You know, just a thought from our people in our town, okay?
They don't even obey the one up by Marlins.
What's that?
They don't obey the one up by Marlins.
No,
If
they're
I
supposed
walked
to
up the
stop.
Sidewalk, there was an elderly lady wanted to cross, and a car was just coming through. It wouldn't stop until I walked out part way and stopped, and she could cross.
But there, it's against the law
Other than
that,
that,
Okay.
Nothing has been able to deter them. We've tried different things, you know, we've moved the sign locations, you know, put them, and you're right, and there's a gentleman that basically is there monitoring that every day, and he almost got hit a couple of times trying to help people across the street.
When it comes to pedestrian safety, we are taking the steps that are necessary. We have city workers reviewing certain crosswalks to see if there's pedestrians having issues. DPW with Councilman Chris Reese, they've been out and about throughout the entire city repainting crosswalks, putting, repainting on French Street, the crosswalks there, moving stop signs, putting bigger stop signs on.
At Third and Market, we're just about to put the lines back in, go into the railroad tracks to make it safer for handicapped individuals to get up onto the sidewalk to go to like art and things like that. So we are working on those kinds of things. It's just,
well, the sign is you are to stop, or you'll be arrested for not stopping.
And then the issue with Front Street, that is a PennDOT road, so they do regulate that, so we do have to get their permission before we do anything on that street.
Because some days they have it there and some days they don't, and it just,
Well, if there's an event,
there's an event every day. We live there.
if there's
Just a thought for the day. Sit down. I thought about my piece.
Mr. Dumas?
I wouldn't say that.
Hello there.
Thank you.
My name is Dimas Languillas. I want to ask them for the news. They working for the public or they working for the private enterprise? The newspaper, Daily Argus. I don't know about the radio because I called them last week, about 9-10 days, and they tell me they're going to call me to say my story. But so far nobody called me. That's all I want to know.
And that's, the newspaper, all news sources, that is not city affiliated.
I know, but, I'm telling my story here because maybe not be in the deaf ears. Somebody gonna call me, to listen my story. That's all I wanna know. Okay? Thank you.
Gina?
I know, Mr.
Gina,
Francis,
also,
you asked
I
like
wanted to
Houdini.
see if I can make a couple of suggestions that other cities do about the problem with businesses and residential parking. They usually start assigning residential permits for $10 to the people who live in those neighborhoods. And if anybody is parking in the neighborhood who doesn't live there more than 2 hours, they will get a ticket. So that might be something you can consider as a resolution to the problem, and then that way, maybe your employees might end up using those designated parking spaces. But I just want to put it out there that Washington DC does it, Baltimore does it, Harrisburg does it.
How do they handle visitors? Because I've heard about that. So how do they handle it? So say
You
you
get
have
a
someone.
visitor pass. I used to do it in Alexandria, Virginia.
So that's.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There you
There you
go.
go.
There you go.
does it too.
So you have to, you park in those spots, and then if you have a friend or family going over, you go to the city and ask for.
Yes, yes.
Bloomsburg has one.
Yeah.
Well, no, even in residential areas. May?
Megan Buck. Just wanted to say, I'm definitely in support of the strategic management planning program. One of the things that you mentioned was the comprehensive plan. That is now 10 years old, and one thing I'll just advise is that grant applications, soon that will be seen as obsolete in grant applications because it's 10 years old and it hasn't been revisited, so just keep that in mind, or maybe look into that and double check like what grants you might be looking at to see, make sure that's still accurate. And also the great thing is there is a good comp plan that hopefully can be polished rather than starting from scratch, so hopefully that will save some funds. The other thing you're talking about parking, I just want to also applaud the city in general for all the great things that I've seen happening this year, trying to do nuanced responses to requests people have in the community, trying to address some of the problems we see out there. We made that policy on parking for percentage allowance in the parking lots. So I just want to bring back to your attention the issue of the permit-only spots, and that those do create a challenge for use in parking lots. And I know we have a lot of parking lots that aren't very utilized, but I deal with the Market House parking lot a lot. And just the other day, I sent some pictures to Chris because there's 3 sides to that parking lot, so it's an odd shape. The 2 sides that don't have the permit-only spots were full. The side with the permit-only, empty. So there's, I don't know how many spaces, there's probably, 20 spaces there that can't be utilized unless you have a permit, and there has to be a better way to do that. And I don't know what the costs are involved with the metering, but, I think that seems like a simple solution is reinstall meters, but I don't know the cost involved with that. So if you just consider that, at least in that lot, maybe in some other places, that'd be greatly appreciated. There's also some safety issues with that parking lot where people trying to transition from that lot to businesses like the Roadhouse and the Market House, and potentially the ones along Stroh Alley, that there isn't a safe way to get from that lot, a handicapped or a way to get across that. There's a lot of people that are older trying to get across there. So, and there's
Isn't there an exit point at Woodlawn and 5th Street?
there is at Woodlawn and Fifth. You're pretty far. And most of the hard thing is with the Market House, a lot of the customers are older. That's sort of the same thing sort of Ruthie was speaking to is, that long distance is a long distance. It's also a safety issue because if people try to cross where they're stepping down off the curb, that Burger King garbage building is right there, right on the curb, so it's blind as people are oncoming towards that spot where they're most likely to cross. So just sort of a few safety issues and also the parking issue there. Lastly, I wanted to bring up, again, I brought up at the last meeting about minimum habitable floor area. And Jim, you'd mentioned about how, what would I recommend for it? I, of course, would love to see the IPC just like waive it, but I would be fine in our Sunbury City Code. It says the minimum, there's actually already a minimum habitable floor area. This whole 1,200, now 900 square foot was established just for the central business district, which seems honestly so counterintuitive to me. I would think, that everywhere else in the city, downtown be higher density. The way it reads is the minimum habitable floor area of a dwelling unit or any building or structure hereafter erected or used for living purposes shall be 600 square feet. So if you were to build a house or something like that, the smallest could be 600 square feet. In case of apartment houses and conversion apartments, the minimum habitable floor area shall be not less than 400 square feet per apartment, except those apartments designed for and occupied exclusively by one person, which shall not contain less than 300 square feet of habitable floor area. And that says, editor's note, in an ordinance adopted in 2017, provides that minimum habitable floor area shall be 900 square feet for central business district only. And I don't know, please consider changing that. I mean, I think the hard part is we have all the upper floors in the downtown that aren't being occupied. There's literally zero ability to utilize them for any offices or businesses because you have to have handicap accessibility except for housing. Housing is really the only useful way for those upper floors to be used very well. And because that square footage, existing apartments can't be utilized and or you have to use an entire floor of a building, which means the investor isn't going to do it. So that was the minimum habitable floor area. Please reconsider that. And then the other one is just coming up again. I had someone call me. I was hoping she'd be able to come here today, but I know she has a zoning hearing coming up. And that she's in that same situation I discussed where she's, I think a younger couple trying to reinvest in the community. They buy something that they see that, it's like, oh, this is dilapidated, we'll fix it up, we'll rent it. And they find that they don't have the ability to put off-street parking, so therefore they can't put housing units in there, and unless they live there themselves or give it to a family member. So maybe a potential, it might be just to give an allowance for half doubles or maybe for stuff existing prior to the change that eliminated the allowance for new permits. I'm trying to think where that is in here, where it says fast track, it's required for fast track to have 1.5 non-public parking spaces. So I know that Highland Avenue had an issue with that, and the zoning office did just recently give permission for that one. This person's coming up next week, and she has that issue. I've had that issue in the past. What I was told by somebody on actually the zoning hearing board is like when you see that something keeps coming up to the zoning hearing board, we're charging people to come back to the zoning hearing board for an issue that you're seeing all over town, and actually reducing property values, I think, and causing dilapidated places in our community. We might want to consider looking at it and actually changing the ordinance. So I think it was brought up when the previous solicitor was in office, we had a previous solicitor at the time by one of those zoning hearing board members. So just please hope you consider some sort of update to that.
Thank you.
Can I just bring something up real quick? I have to run. On Friday, I just want the public to know so if they can get out there and watch. The 9/11 Forget Memorial exhibit is coming through Sunbury. It's going to be traveling from Lewisburg around noon. It's going to come down Front Street off the bridge, down Chestnut, and they were going to come straight down Front Street, but they decided that I talked them into coming down Chestnut and coming up Market Street. We're going to close Market Street off all traffic while the trailer comes through. It's a pretty neat thing that comes through. They say it does get pretty long because they have some motorcycle clubs that come through with it, and a fire apparatus and police. They'll be escorting it through Sunbury, back up Front Street through Norio, and it'll be resting out at Elysburg for their festival they're having out there, and it'll be all set up then. So on Friday, it should be here a little after 12. I encourage the public to come out downtown Market Street to watch it come through. It's a pretty moving trailer, basically, but it's pretty neat that's going to be coming through. So that should be here a little after 12 on Friday. Tuesday, school starts. Please, people, be patient with kids going to school. Watch traffic, and That's all I have to say.
So you're saying that that trail is gonna be at the Old Homes Day in Ely'sburg this
Yes.
weekend?
Yep,
Okay.
that's his final destination, they're sponsoring to come there, but they have a travel route and people always come out to watch it come through.
Okay.
So it's coming through on Friday, so.
Thank you.
Oh, hold, Mr. Bub, he's been.
Okay, I think I heard you talk about licenses or something in your discussion before.
Me?
Well, it came up,
What kind of license?
well, I don't know, I thought you just mentioned licenses or occupations or something about some kind of special box supposed to go on.
This is for the small cell. Verizon.
Oh, for Verizon?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, well, I'd like to make the suggestion that you contact the CEDACOG Joint Rail Authority. They have a rather extensive fee schedule for different types of occupations. And Verizon tried to, they wanted to put a guy wire for phone pole on our property up there at Chippewa Avenue. And apparently they were trying to offer us peanuts. And we said according to that schedule, it's $70 a year, so that your CPI, they went away.
Okay.
So they have licenses and such that have CPI tied into them. So that's additional income for the city. So you might want to look at that fee schedule. I'm pretty sure they would share it with you. George Fury is a property manager. He's the one you might want to talk to.
We've dealt with George before.
I know George.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to belabor any point, Amy Buhner, I work for Boat Agency and with SRI. But what Megan brought up, we had talked about a couple of years ago regarding the minimum square footage in the central business district. And I would love to be a part of that discussion again when it was reduced from the 1,200 to the 900, talking about being proactive instead of reactive. And if it's going to be reduced, and I've had this conversation with Mike through, with the code office, being concerned with egress and required exits, fire escapes, so on and so forth, if we would just allow that to be the burden of the property owner. Because the bigger return on investment that they're going to be able to come forth with, the more likely we are to get investors to start to renovate some of these buildings. So I think that we have to have a little less concern with what we're requiring of them as far as size and stick to the safety side of things. And if they can come up with some creative plan that they can make smaller units and be able to accommodate a higher return, the sooner we may be able to sell some of these vacant buildings, get businesses in the first floor and renovate the second floors and have this walkable community that we've been talking about for years.
I have a question to get to you and to Megan. So, do you guys have an idea of just a ballpark percentage of how many properties downtown are affected by this that have square footage that they can't take a space of 1,800 and make it into too small because of this? Is there a bunch that are affected by it?
Yeah, I know, I've spoken with a lot of ones like Braden's, for instance. He has 2 stories above his and it's completely unused for that reason. I'm gonna guess Monty Peters building, I was in the 3rd floor of that, it's completely open with nothing in it. I probably have 4 buildings in the downtown that all have what used to be apartments but can no longer now be multiple apartments because of the square footage issue.
So how many units do you think it would generate going from even just a 900 to a 600? Would generate 50 units downtown, 100 units downtown, more than that?
I couldn't attest to that, but that's something that I wanted to try and get some information on. I mean, in my opinion, understanding where you're coming from as far as numbers, the more the better. Because if somebody can facilitate that, we're just looking at them generating more income and benefiting the downtown from all of that taking place. We were also able to move away from the parking spaces being required down there. But I really think that these are burdens that we need to put on the people that are willing to own the buildings. And as long as we are keeping all of that contained and making it more difficult, the longer that it's all gonna sit there. So if we can even double the amount of units, let alone maybe triple them, the better off we'll be, because I don't know that going from 1,200 to 900 made a significant difference in what people are able to put up there. You know, you're going to expense and having to put in kitchens and bathrooms, which are the most expensive parts of putting a unit in. But if you can create the egress, have at it. Who are we to tell you not to? Because I do think that units like that, if we can do some, you know, mid-range, we're getting a lot of renters coming through here because of the affordability. And you can create a lot of mid-range loft-style apartments in these second floors, and they love it. So I think it would provide us a great opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Any other audience comment tonight? All right, thank you all for coming out tonight. This meeting is adjourned.